Larry Bird versus Dr. J. Every time they faced each other, you knew it was going to be an extremely intense battle. In the early 80s, the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers were the biggest rivalry in the NBA. It was the old versus the new. They had to go through each other just to reach the finals. This led to some of the most legendary matchups that we've ever seen.
Isolated with Jay, spins around him. Yes, sir.
2 or 3 passes within a 5-foot radius.
And a fight between Jay and Bird has broken out on the court.
And they have won the series.
The first thing that we have to understand is that this rivalry goes beyond these two players fighting for the top spot. It's deeper than that. We're talking about tradition. We're talking about a rivalry that started decades before. Once you understand the history, then you can truly see why they made it a point to give each other hell.
This is a rivalry that goes back into the 50s. They really didn't have that much going on in playoff play in the 50s. But when Wilt showed up in 59-60, that changed everything. And that rivalry, they had several playoff series. And in fact, Philadelphia won in 67, beating the Celtics fair and square in 5 games. And the Game 5 was one of the great nights in 76er fan history. Anyway, this rivalry heated up again. And Larry shows up in 79-80, and now Philadelphia once again has something to think about.
Julius Erving even went as far as to say that when somebody plays for Boston and somebody else plays for Philly, I don't care if it's your mother, you're not supposed to get along. This is someone that really respected the history of the game. It shouldn't be surprising that he took his role in the story rivalry very seriously. That's one factor, but the other is that the Doctor and Bird were arguably the 2 best players in the league during the early to mid 80s. On one end, you have the most athletically gifted and talented players the league has ever seen. The stunts that he was doing in midair were revolutionary, but he was much more than his dunking highlights. He was an incredibly underrated all-around player. He was someone that could fill up the stat sheet on any given night. He was a fantastic rebounder, a creative passer, a menace in the passing lanes, and the top producing shot blocker of his position. Seriously, he had the total package, but don't just take it from me.
As he lost a little bit of his athleticism as he got older as a player, Doc started moving in, posting up a little bit more, became a master of that little 12, 13-foot bank shot off the left side. He still had that soaring gracefulness about going to the basket. And, when he got up on the basket, it was going to be a dunk. But Doc became a complete player, and I'm not saying that he ever was, but as you lose, as you see LeBron, as you see Magic, as you see Kobe, when they lose that athleticism, they start getting smarter and move closer to the basket and start redefining their game a little bit. And Doc was one of the best at doing that.
On the other side was one of the most cold-blooded, gifted, and revered players of all time. We have never seen someone that could beat you in so many different ways. He seemed to do everything at a high level. Everyone always points out that he was an extremely proficient shooter, and indeed he was. But he was also the greatest passer other than Magic Johnson. He was a top rebounder of his position. He was extremely active in the passing lanes. He was an All-NBA defender during this time. And when the game was on the line, there was no one that you feared more. To this day, he is still considered the most complete player ever. Trust me, it's not just me.
You know what, Nick, the one thing about Coach Riley, and I've always said this about him, his attention to detail. I mean, we knew what play when they called 4 down, 3 out, 33C, whatever it was to get Larry open, we knew zipper, whatever, we knew where the ball was going to go. And that's what made Larry larger than life, because he knew that we knew that he was going to get the basketball. And when he came off a down pick and they picking me and Kareem or Worthy, we stepped out on him. That shows you the essence and who this guy was. He was about team, he was about winning, he was about making plays.
On top of their individual greatness, they had the fortune of playing on some great teams. They each played with multiple Hall of Fame level players. These were teams that were equal in talent and played a hard-nosed style of defense. It was truly a toss-up whenever they played. For example, out of their 44 regular season matchups, Larry has a record of 23-21. In the playoffs, they faced each other 4 times. They each won 2 series, and their record was 12-12. That gives Larry only a 1-game advantage. But who has the statistical edge? Here are the numbers of what they averaged against each other. Keep in mind that Bird was reaching his peak in Erving's final years. That has to be taken into consideration. This does give us a great idea of what they brought to the table. The one regular season matchup that comes to mind came in the 1980/81 season. This was their best performance against each other. Larry had 36 points on 48% shooting, 21 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Then there was the Doctor. He had 45 points on 50% shooting, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 blocks, and 3 steals. Behind his masterful all-around game, the Sixers won by 4 points. The regular season matchups were great, but the reason why the rivalry was so memorable was their battles in the playoffs. It all started right in the beginning of Larry's career. In his rookie season, they faced each other in the conference finals. The Celtics had home court advantage as they had the best record in the league, but the advantage the Sixers had was experience. For their first 2 victories, they won by 3 points or less. In games 1 and 3, they made some big plays down the stretch, while the Celtics made some head-scratching decisions. For games 4 and 5, it was Philly's defense that shut down a top 5 scoring offense. In game 5, they did a great job of overwhelming the rookie. Larry Bird finished with 12 points on 26% shooting. Philadelphia was back to the finals, and this was the beginning of the revival of the rivalry. In the following season, both players were leading their respective teams to dominant seasons. The Sixers and Celtics each won 62 games. They were leading their teams in their own unique way. This led to one of the closest finishes for the MVP. Who was the better player? Who was more valuable to their team? According to K.C. Jones, he told the Washington Post, "Larry's the best I've ever seen as far as the total spectrum of the game. Attitude, hustling, shooting, passing, and rebounding." According to the coach of the Atlanta Hawks, Julius was the Dr. J of old, the one he saw and coached in the old ABA. He's a lot wiser and awesome again. In the end, Dr. J was awarded the MVP. Did the voters make the right call?
Debates of this nature. I thought Larry should have won, but but I wasn't going to begrudge the great Dr. J, who not only did I admire as a player, but knew him a little bit as a guy. Larry was probably deserving of an MVP that year, but this is, all I can tell you is look at 2025-26 and the irresolvable debate about whoever winds up winning. As we speak, we don't know the winner. We think it's going to be SGA by virtue of straw polls. It's not easy. So yeah, Larry could have won in 81, but this happens all the time.
If you know anything about Larry Legend, you know he's going to have something to say about this, and he let his game do the talking. Of course, we're talking about what is widely considered as the most entertaining, competitive, and intense playoff series ever. There were a total of 5 games where the game was decided by 2 points or less. This series had it all. Bodies were falling on the floor constantly. Fights were being broken up left and right. Fans were throwing things on the floor in big clutch shots. You even had Cedric Maxwell grabbing a fan by the collar and pushing him down to his seat. And he was allowed to stay in the game. It goes without saying that these were much different times, but it highlights the intense conditions that they were playing through. For the first 4 games, it was the Doctor who had full control of the series. He wasn't dominating with his scoring, but he was contributing in a major way on defense. Did you know that he posted 5 blocks for Game 2 and Game 4? This allowed the Sixers to gain a 3-1 series lead. That's when one of the greatest closers ever took over. They were able to force a Game 7 behind their clutch play. In Game 5, they were down by 6 points with 1:51 left to play, and the Celtics outscored Philly 8-0 to win by 2 points. In Game 6, the Sixers were up by 17 in the first half, but the Celtics clawed their way back to win on the road after losing 11 straight on the Sixers' home floor. That set up Game 7, and this was the closest thing to a cage fight that you'll ever see on the basketball court. The referees basically just rolled the ball down and said, "We're not calling anything unless someone gets physically assaulted." The game was physical, but not dirty. It was just the epitome of what playoff basketball is all about. The Sixers were up for the majority of the game, and they had a 7-point lead with 5:23 left. The Celtics then proceeded to outscore the Sixers 9-1. It all culminated with this play.
Bird coming to the left. Stop and pop off the glass. It's gone. Off the lead, 91-89.
They completed the 3-1 comeback, and they were eventually able to win their first title for the Larry Bird era. After the series victory, Bob Bryant went as far as to say in his column that it was the gutsiest series comeback in the 35-year history of basketball. That might have been the peak of this rivalry, but it wasn't the end. For the Sixers, it was time for payback. They were in the same spot in the following postseason, the conference finals, and Boston had home court advantage. In Game 1, it seemed like the end result would also be the same. This has been dubbed as the Mother's Day Massacre. The Celtics won by 40 points. They had 5 players that scored in double figures. Then there was Larry, who beat them in every imaginable way. He finished with 24 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block. This was 4 straight playoff victories against his rival. But Julius would have his own response. They had a great bounce-back victory in Game 2 behind a strong performance by Andrew Toney. He had 30 points on nearly 60% shooting. In Game 3, it was a tight contest. It went down to the wire, and it was the doctor that made the game-saving block. They now had the momentum. Just like in 1981, they were able to gain a 3-1 series lead. And just like in 1981, the Celtics clawed their way back to tie the series. They were able to slow down the Sixers' offense. In fact, they held them to only 75 points in Game 6. It was their lowest scoring game of the year. The Leprechauns were haunting this team. Were they going to blow a 3-1 lead for the second straight year? That's when the Boston Strangler came to the rescue. He had the Celtics defense on a chokehold. He recorded 34 points on 61% shooting. But he wasn't the only one that came to play. The doctor had an impact in every facet of the game. He posted 29 points on 48% shooting, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. There are so many things that you could say about this performance, but Bob Bryant highlighted one aspect that he took major strides in.
In 82, when they beat the Celtics in Game 7, after they had lost Game 7 in 81, and the Celtics were highly favored to win that game in Boston in 82, Larry he had some killer threes, so he got to be a better shooter. And guess what, gang? He worked on it. He didn't settle on his talent, and by talent, running, jumping, reflexes, etc., but not the mastery of the game. He was determined not to be one of those guys. He wanted to be a full, complete player, and he was.
For 3 straight years, the Celtics and Sixers faced off in the conference finals. After so many years of emotional and intense battles, there was no love lost between the two teams. You could tell that something was brewing from this point forward. In the 1983 season, the Sixers received Moses Malone, and they were even stronger. Boston, on the other hand, couldn't reach the conference finals and avoided playing against their rival. But that didn't calm things down one bit. In a 1983 preseason game, they were playing like it was Game 7 of the conference finals. And then it turned ugly. Moses Malone inherited the beef and got into it with Cornbread Maxwell. Even Larry Bird was throwing some jabs. The rivalry had reached its boiling point, and it was ready to pop.
But it all got started because of Larry and Ivaroni, Mark Ivaroni. So we know why he was out there. He was out there to be a muscle man, be a defender, irritate people. And among the people he irritated was Larry Bird.
Yeah, Larry didn't like the way Ivaroni boxed out on a free throw. Came back down the floor and Larry threw a punch at him. It said, Red Auerbach stormed the court. Auerbach got in Moses Malone's face and screamed, "Hit me, you big SOB. Go ahead, I'm not big. Hit me, you SOB."
The teams didn't get along on the court, but off the court, there was a mutual respect between the NBA's 2 biggest stars. In fact, they collaborated many times in commercials promoting their Converse sneakers. But early in the 1984-85 season, it got personal. It was the 5th game of the season for Boston, and Larry couldn't miss a shot. He was having the game of his life, and the more he scored, the more he talked.
He's like, "Charles, y'all better get this old man off me." I'm telling you, and he's just roasting Doc.
It was the 3rd quarter. The Celtics are already up by 20 points. Larry was up to 42 points on 74% shooting. He was well on his way for a 50-point game, maybe even more. And Dr. J had enough.
Oh, and a fight between Jay and Bird has broken out on the court. And Moses Malone takes Bird down. He's got a headlock.
This image has been made famous and is the first thing that many people think of when talking about this rivalry. Their hands around each other's necks, looking to cause harm. But that's not what this rivalry was all about. It boils down to this. They were the ultimate competitors. Winning was the most important thing for them, and they both sacrificed so much to get to the top. Usually, they had to go through each other to get there. All those years of fighting just to reach to the finals, the devastating defeats, the emotional rollercoaster ride of a series they played in 81 and 82. And in one meaningless game, it boiled over. It was bound to happen. This was not something that they were known for doing, and that's what shocked everyone so much. After the game, Julius mentioned how embarrassed he was of his actions and the way he conducted himself. Larry Bird has also mentioned how much respect he has for the doctor. He once mentioned that it was ML Carr that was talking trash from the bench, that he never said a word to him on the court. There are some conflicting reports, but one thing's for certain, they never meant to take it this far. Although everyone remembers that game for one thing, it also symbolized the changing of the guard. Larry was reaching his peak while the doctor was on his way out. That was even more apparent when they faced each other one last time in the playoffs. It was, of course, in the conference finals. The ending was poetic. This time, it was Bird who was able to eliminate the Sixers in 5 games. This marked the end of Philadelphia's dominant reign. It would take 16 years until they were able to get that deep in the playoffs again. But before Dr. J hanged it up for good, there was one parting gift he wanted to leave for Boston. It was late in the 1985-86 season. The Celtics were up by 2, and Larry Bird was on the free throw line to ice the game. Amazingly, he missed both free throws. That set up this classic moment by the doctor.
3 seconds left. Out the doctor, he's got a crack at it. 3-pointer, he got it!
It was a game-winning 3-pointer that gave the 1986 Celtics a rare loss. In the following season, Julius Erving announced his plans to retire, and the NBA teams wanted to show their appreciation by giving him a proper retirement tour. The Boston Celtics and their fans gave him a lot of love. There's so much appreciation for what he did for the game and the battles they had. All these years later, and there hasn't been many other rivalries that's given us so many iconic moments. But what about you all? Which side were you on during this exciting time? Where should this be ranked among the NBA's greatest rivalries? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.